started, I got a little quiz here for everybody. Got a lot of good food here, haven't we? How many of you love the food that's here?
The food that's here.
How many of you love pizza?
Yeah.
Got some hands there, some people love pizza. How many people here love a special type of sports car? Or a special type of vehicle? Or how about a favorite television series?
Definitely not.
Movie, or maybe some type of a game that you love to play.
I don't love none of those things. I like them, but I do not love them.
That's a good answer. Yeah. Turn to 1 John chapter 2. We're going to start at 1 John chapter 2 this morning. And
Vince, you gotta get close to that mic too.
1235, 1234.
yes, it's on page 1234 is where we're going. And the word Yahweh by God. And we're going to start with verse 15. Verse 15 reads, "Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world passeth away, and the lust thereof. But he that doeth the will of Elohim abideth forever."
Hallelujah.
And I want to thank Tim and John for the teachings that they did. We did not collaborate on these teachings, by the way. I didn't even know that I was going to be coming to Sukkot here when I started putting this together. But that set the foundation for what we're going to look at today. So verse 17 here says, "And the world passeth away." I got some little props here to show you. Everybody knows what this is. Screwdriver. Got a pair of scissors. Got a cell phone here. I have a laptop computer here. All of those items, there are people who love them. These are all tools. They're all designed to do a job. But yet people get all wrapped up into these things. These are just representative of things in the world. You know, maybe there's not too many people that might love a screwdriver or a wrench. Or a pair of scissors. But they love these things in the world. They love their video games. They love the screwdrivers, scissors, cell phones, video games, Lego blocks, other toys, whether for kids' toys or adult toys, computers, their favorite movies, their favorite television series. As people just get so wrapped up in some of this stuff, they just love it. Yep, addicted. There's a contrast between doing Yahweh's will and loving the world. A stark contrast. So what does it look like to do Yahweh's will? What does it look like to not love the world and to do Yahweh's will? Turn to Matthew chapter 22. Matthew chapter 22, it's on page 973 in the Word of Yahweh. We're going to start in verse 35. It says, then one of them, which was a lawyer, asked Yeshua, tempting him, and saying, Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law, in the Torah? Yeshua said unto him, Thou shalt love Yahweh thy Elohim with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. When you're loving Yahweh with all your heart, there's no room left to love other things. When you're loving Yahweh with all your soul, there's no room left in your soul for other to love other things. When you're loving Him with all your might, there's no might left in you to love other things. Go to 1 Timothy chapter 1. And that's on page 1199 in the Word of Yahweh. And I'm going to read this out of both the Word of Yahweh and some of it out of the Scriptures as well. So I like how some of this reads here. I'm going to start with verse 1 in the Word of Yahweh. Paul, an apostle of Yeshua the Messiah, by the commandment of Yahweh, our Savior, the commandment of Yahweh, our Savior, Master, Yeshua the Messiah, our hope. Unto Timothy, my own son in the faith, grace, mercy, and peace, from Yahweh our Father, and in Yeshua the Messiah, our Master. Pay attention to that word master when it comes to Yeshua. As I besought thee to abide still at Ephesus, when I went into Macedonia, that thou mightest charge some that they teach no other doctrine. That they don't teach differently. They don't teach any other doctrine. Neither giving heed to fables and endless genealogies, which minister questions, rather than Yahweh's edifying, which is in faith, so do. This also says in the Scriptures, it reads, not to pay attention to fables and endless genealogies, which cause disputes. It can cause disputes, rather than an administration of Elohim, which is in belief. So people want to look at these fables and stuff and follow after this and that and the other, the latest, greatest new doctrine that's going on. You don't have to turn to Titus 1:14 says, not giving heed to Jewish fables and commandments of men that turn from the truth. So you've got all kinds of fables floating around. The Jewish people had, their Talmudic fables. We can learn a lot from those things about how they thought, and things are mentioned in the New Covenant section of the Scriptures, but we watch for those fables and those commandments of men, those burdens of the Pharisees that they placed on men. As far as I know, this goes all the way back to when they were in captivity in Babylon. So this was already going on when Yeshua was here, and he confronts some of that stuff that we see.
Right.
Yes, he did.
Right.
But these fables can also be fables from pagan cultures. There's those man-made doctrines in the pagan cultures that people follow. Maybe they put up a certain type of tree for a certain holiday, or they decorate eggs and do other things for another certain type of holiday. Or maybe there's all kinds of other stuff going on in false religions around the world. Okay? Those fables, they get caught up in endless genealogies. Those things minister questions, those things minister disputes. Okay? Verse 5. Now the end of the commandment is charity out of a pure heart, and a good conscience, and of faith on faith. Scriptures reads, Now the goal of this command is love, from a clean heart, from a good conscience, and a sincere belief. A faith on faith, a sincere belief. But it's a good heart, a pure heart, a clean heart, with a good conscience. What occupies our hearts? Are we letting this contamination occupy our hearts? Keep our hearts from being clean? Keep our hearts from being pure? What kind of fantasies do people allow in their minds? Think about that. You know, the theme this year is from Psalms 19:14. And we think about that. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable unto you, O Yahweh.
That's right.
Those meditations in our heart, we want to have that pure heart, that clean heart. It's not contaminated by loving the world, right? And I know I'm preaching to the choir here. I think it's really interesting how three teachings just kind of converged like that. It just feels so awesome. Ephesians chapter 1, hold your finger here, we'll come right back. Ephesians chapter 1, it's on page 1179, just a few pages. We'll start with verse 2. It says, grace be to you and peace from Yahweh our Father and from the Master, Yahshua the Messiah. Here again we see Yahshua being referred to as our Master. Verse 3, I really like verse 3. It says, blessed be the Elohim and Father of our Master, Yeshua the Messiah. The Elohim and Father of our Master, Yeshua the Messiah, who hath blessed us with all spiritual blessings in the heavenlies in the Messiah.
Hallelujah.
According as he hath chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy, we should be Kodesh, and without blame before him in love. So we're to be Kodesh. We're to be blameless before him in love. Pure heart, clean heart, not loving the world. Verse 6 of 1 Timothy 1. From which some having swerved have turned aside unto vain jangling. The scriptures read, which some, having missed the goal, turned aside to senseless talk. How much senseless talk do we allow ourselves to do and get caught up in?
Too much.
Yeah, too much. Even since I've been here, I've got caught up with some senseless talk and realized later, you know, I had other things I had to go do, and I just talked for an hour about stuff that later I even forgot what it was, you know. So that's something, that's an area where we all need to be vigilant. Do we love senseless talk? Is that something that we love? A thing of the world? People in the world are so full of senseless talk. We go out in the world, it's so easy to become contaminated with that. Those vain janglings. Verse 7, desiring to be teachers of the law, teachers of the Torah, understanding neither what they say nor wherever they affirm. But we know that the law is good if a man use it lawfully. Look at Luke chapter 14. It's on page 1036 where we're going to go. So we have to guard our hearts as well. When we're out in the world, and Proverbs tells us to guard our hearts. So we have to guard our hearts. Because it's so easy to get contaminated and start loving the things of the world. And I'm going to discuss that just a little bit more here when we get into Luke 14. Verse 25 is where we're going to start. It says, and there were great multitudes with him, with Yeshua, and he turned and said unto them, if any man come to me, and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. That word hate can literally mean hate. But that word hate also can mean love less.
Yes.
Have an aversion from something, or a disregard for something. To prefer one thing over another.
Right.
So you prefer Yeshua over all these other things.
Exactly.
You love all those other things less. You have an aversion from those things, a disregard for them when it comes to following Yeshua. When the rubber meets the road. And that includes our own life also. Otherwise, you cannot be his disciple, his taught one, his disciplined one. Verse 27, and whoever does not bear his stake and come after me, he cannot be my disciple. We carry our crucifixion stake to our own crucifixion. That's how we need to see this. We hang our life on that crucifixion stake. Verse 28, for which of you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it? Lest at any time after he hath laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, all that behold it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and is not able to finish. Or what king going to make war against another king, sitteth not down first, and consulteth whether he be able with 10,000 to meet him that cometh against him, with 20,000? Or else, while the other is yet a great way off, he sendeth an ambassage, he sends ambassadors, and desireth conditions of peace. So likewise, whoever he be of you that forsaketh not all that he hath, he cannot be my disciple. This is a qualifying verse here. Let's read verse 33 again. This is a qualifying verse. So likewise, whomsoever he be of you that forsaketh not all that he hath, he cannot be my disciple. Forsaking all that you have is the opposite of loving the world. Not loving the world, but doing Yahweh's will. Do you know why some people love these things in the world? Because of dopamine in their brains. They build up these habits. You know, you go watch a bunch of movies and stuff, you like that stuff, you get that dopamine in your brain. Or some of these other things that people like, you get that dopamine in your brain. Then when it comes to learning Yahweh's Word, or sitting in a teaching, we're not getting that dopamine. Think about that. People's minds get conditioned. Watching movies and all this other stuff all the time can condition your mind. Think about what's happening to our children in the educational systems, in the media. Their minds are being conditioned to function a certain way. And how their minds are being conditioned to function is just the opposite of what's needed for their minds to function to sit in a service like this.
That's right.
There's a contrast there. Their minds are conditioned to love the world. And when they love the world, they don't love being someplace like this where they can learn the Word. And how many churches out there in Christianity have the rock bands and all their entertainment to just try and keep adults, not just youth and children, but adults, entertained long enough that they'll actually sit in the service. Cell phones. Yep, cell phones, computers, all that stuff. That's why I showed all that stuff here. You know? So think about that. That's part of what's going on here. Romans 10:9 says that if you shall confess with your mouth the Master Yeshua, what does it mean for him to be our master, our sovereign, our king, our ruler, the one who rules over our life? We hang our life on that crucifixion stake. We take up our crucifixion stake and follow him. He now has the authority over us.
That's right.
Okay? Look at verse 34. Salt is good, but if the salt has lost its savor, wherewith shall it be seasoned? It is neither fit for the land, nor yet fit for the dung. Then cast it out. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. Inside. That started coming later. Originally, it was the Messianic believers that were gone after. But verse 22 here says in Matthew 16, that Peter took him and began to rebuke him, saying, Be it far from thee, Master, this shall not be unto thee. But he turned and said unto him, Get thee behind me, Satan, which in Hebrew Satan means enemy or adversary. Get thee behind me, enemy, get thee behind me, adversary. That's what he was calling Peter. Thou art an offense unto me, for thou savorest not the things that be of Elohim, but those that be of men. Think about that. He said, Thou savorest not the things that be of Elohim, but those things that be of men. When people love the world, are they savoring the things of Elohim, of Yahweh, or are they savoring the things of men? They're savoring the things of men. And who is the Elohim of the world? It's the devil. Verse 24, Then said Yeshua unto his disciples, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself, and take up his stake, and follow me. There again we see it. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it. What is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? For the Son of Man shall come in the majesty of his Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works. And that is literally true. We're going to be at that judgment when the Messiah gathers us together at his return. If our works are wood, hay, and stubble, we're going to be burned up. If our works are silver, gold, and precious stone, we're going to see the reward. That's going to be our judgment as we read 1 Corinthians 3. We look at the end of Revelation after 1,000-year reign of the Messiah, the millennial reign. There's going to be the judgment of everybody else. And if their names are not found written in the book of life, they'll be cast into the lake of fire and destroyed. Not everybody that's going to be in that judgment is going to be cast into the lake of fire and destroyed. But those whose names are not written in the book of life. Okay? Verse 28. Verily I say unto you, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. There shall the Lord. The Spirit was given. People got born in God's Spirit. That kingdom is here. The kingdom of Yahweh is here, but now the Messiah's kingdom, which is under the authority of Yahweh's kingdom, is here. Look at Colossians chapter 1, 11 and more on this. Question is, which kingdom do we belong to? Which kingdom are we acting like we belong to? Colossians chapter 1 is on page 1189. We're going to start in verse 12. It says, giving thanks unto the Father, which has made us meet, which has made us adequate to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in light. Why don't you notice that in light there? We're going to be looking at that a little bit too. Who hath delivered us from the power of darkness, literally from the darkness kingdom. Okay? Remember, the devil is the Elohim of this world, right? He showed Yeshua all kingdoms of the world. He said, if you bow down and worship me, I'll give you all this authority. Who hath delivered us from the power of darkness, and hath translated us, or transferred us, into the kingdom of his dear Son.
Yes.
We transfer kingdoms, right? When Yeshua is our master, our king, our sovereign, the ruler over our lives, in whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins. Okay? That's kingdom. It's Yeshua's kingdom. We need to act like we belong to his kingdom, and we need to do it from the heart. It's a heart issue. Matthew 6:33, Yeshua said, seek ye first his kingdom and righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. That's what we're to seek first.
Yes.
Right? Look at Luke 9. And back to Luke chapter 9, page 1028. We're going to start on page 1028, verse 57 of Luke chapter 9. It says, and it came to pass that as they went in the way, a certain man said unto him, Master, I will follow thee whithersoever thou goest. And Yeshua said unto him, foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head. And he said unto another, follow me. But he said, Master, permit me first to go and bury my father. Yeshua said unto him, let the dead bury their dead, but go and preach the kingdom of Elohim. This was an excuse that this man was making. The man's father was alive, or would have been alive, and he was going to wait till after his father passed, which could be years down the road. So it was an excuse. Verse 61. Oh, verse 60, what does Yeshua say to him? Let the dead bury their dead, but go and preach the kingdom of Elohim. Again, we see that kingdom language here. The kingdom of Elohim. Verse 61, another also said, Master, I will follow thee, but let me first go, bid them farewell, which are at home at my house. And Yeshua said unto him, no man, having put his hand to the plow and looking back, is fit for the kingdom of Elohim. Yeah, for the kingdom of Elohim. Okay? So this is all kingdom language. And there's the record in Luke 18 of the rich man. Yeshua said, go and sell all that you have. And he sold because he had great wealth. Well, it's all you have for an income probably. Okay? You can read that record. It's in Luke 18, starting in verse 18. We're going to skip it right now. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, page 1159. I'm sure something more neat about this here. Think about all these things in the world. The lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, the pride of life. They're all going to pass away. But look at this. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 27 reads, for he, well, starting, I'm going to start in verse 25 or 24 here. It's talking about the resurrection. You know, every man in his own order, the Messiah of the first fruits. Afterward, they that are the Messiah, that is coming. So that's when I'll be for everybody. It's a follower of the Messiah who has Yeshua as the king. Yeshua is the master, who's part of his kingdom. Not all the people outside his kingdom are playing religious games and stuff and, you know, don't really want to follow him. You know, they love the world so much that they, you know, it's like this little side thing on the back burner for Verse 24 of 1 Corinthians 15 says, then cometh the end, when he shall have delivered up the kingdom to Elohim, even the Father. So Yeshua's going to deliver up the kingdom to his Father. When he shall have put down all rule and all authority and power. For he must reign till he hath put all enemies under his feet. The last enemy that shall be destroyed is death. And we see that at the end of the book of Revelation there, right before the new heaven and the new earth. Verse 27, for he hath put all things under his feet. But when he saith all things are put under him, it is manifest that he is accepted, which did put all things under him. So Yahweh put all things under Yeshua's feet. And when all things shall be subdued unto him, then shall the Son also himself be subject unto him that put all things under him, that Elohim may be all in all. So we see that hierarchy of authority. Yeshua's kingdom is under the authority of Yahweh's kingdom. So when you're part of Yeshua's kingdom, you're also part of Yahweh's kingdom. Okay? Turn to John chapter 15. It's on page 1076. In the Word of Yahweh. The first verse of John 15 reads, I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. And every branch that beareth fruit, he purges, that it may bring forth more fruit. Oh, look, I have some big plants here. Oh, look at this. I just cut these off this morning and they're already starting to wilt. But we have some branches here, we have some here that aren't bearing fruit. So So they get cut off, don't they? Here's one here, it's not bearing fruit, it gets cut off. Here's another one that's not bearing fruit, nice big one too, that's going to get cut off. So we just cut these off. This is what the husbandman does who has a vineyard. They have to prune and prune and prune. It's a lot of work for them to prune. The branches are not bearing fruit. They're sucking off the vine. Okay? Here's the branches here. They're on the bottom. They're away from the sunlight. They're sitting in darkness. Because they're sitting in darkness, they can become diseased. They can become moldy. They can spread the disease and mold to the rest of the vine. I'm going to cut those off. Get rid of those. There's one right here. That one's sitting in darkness. Go to 1 John. Oh, no, I'm sorry, go to John chapter 3.
John chapter what?
3. It's on page 1057. Verse 19 reads of John chapter 3, and this is the condemnation, that light is come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. Point blank, their deeds were evil. They didn't love Yahweh and His kingdom. They didn't seek Yahweh's kingdom. They loved the world and the things in the world, because their deeds were evil. For everyone that doeth evil hateth the light, neither cometh to the light, lest his deeds should be reproved. But he that doeth truth cometh to the light, that his deeds may be made manifest, that they are wrought in Yahweh. Okay? We see that here. So they did not want that light. Go to John chapter 8. It's on page 1066. So remember those branches down on the bottom there, they weren't receiving light. They can become diseased, they can become moldy. Verse 12 of John chapter 8 reads, Then spoke Yeshua again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. Okay? Turn to 1 John chapter 1. That's on page 1234 in the Yahweh. We're going to start with verse 5 of 1 John chapter 1. It says, This then is the message which we have heard of him and declare unto you, that Elohim is light, and in him is no darkness at all. If we say that we have fellowship with him and walk in darkness, we lie and do not the truth. But if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship one with another. And the blood of Yeshua the Messiah, his Son, cleanseth us from all sin.
Hallelujah.
It's important to walk in the light. So, the ones that have no light, you cut off. You want to spread that disease to the rest of the vine. Ones here that aren't bearing fruit, or they're wilting up, or dying, you cut off. They just get cut off. And they just get cut off. And they just keep getting cut off. I mean, what's going to be left here? Let's cut this whole piece right here off. You get cut off. This one here, that's diseased. It's been contaminated by the love of the world. It's cut off. So, you can turn back to John chapter 15.
John 15.
John chapter 15 on page 1076. So, those branches in darkness, what did they love? They loved the world. They didn't want to come to the light. They were in the darkness of the world's kingdom. So they got cut off. Now, the pruned off branches, those need to be gathered together and burned. Because what will happen here is if they're not gathered together and burned, they can attract pests, and they can spread diseases. And those pests and diseases then can spread to the vines. So you gather those branches together and burn them. Look at all these branches we got here to burn now. So we're going into this lake of fire here and burn them and get rid of them.
That's right.
Because you don't want that contamination. Okay? So, John chapter 15, verse 1. I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. And every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. So even then, in our lives, there's pruning that goes on, so that we can bring forth more fruit. Now you are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine, no more can you, except you abide in me. The only way that we're going to bear fruit is by abiding in the Messiah, living in the Messiah.
That's right.
Okay? And then we have to have his kingdom living in us. Verse 5, I am the vine, you are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, there it is, us in him, and he in us. The same bringeth forth much fruit, for without me you can do nothing.
That's right.
If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and is withered. You see, this here is already withering. This is already withering, it's already dying. It's already gone. I just cut this off this morning, just a few hours ago. It's withered. And men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. Matthew chapter 7, hold your finger here, we're going to look at Matthew chapter 7 for a second. On page 952, in relation to what we just read here in verse 6. In Matthew chapter 7, verse 13 is where we're going to start. It says, enter you in at the straight gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction. And many there be which go in thereat. Because straight is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. You shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns, or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. So not only are we supposed to bring forth fruit, abundant fruit, but we're supposed to bring forth good fruit. Verse 18, a good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Whereof by the fruit you shall know them. Not everyone that saith unto me, Sovereign, Sovereign, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven. Here we're seeing now the kingdom of heaven, but he that doth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Then he will say to me in that day, in the judgment, Sovereign, Sovereign, have we not prophesied in thy name? And in thy name have cast out devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works? And then I will profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you that work iniquity, lawlessness, torlessness, anonia, torlessness. Therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man, which built his house upon a rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. And everyone that heareth these sayings of mine, and doeth them not, shall be likened unto a foolish man, which built his house upon the sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. So, we hear about this, the house built on rock versus the house that's built on the sand. Even there's children's songs about this. But here's the context of it. Okay? Following Yeshua and doing what he says. So, John chapter 15, verse 6, if a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and is withered, and men gather them and cast them into the furnace, and they are burned. If ye abide in me, and my words abide in you, you shall ask what ye will, and it shall be done unto you. And when you're abiding in Yeshua, and his words are abiding in you, you're not going to ask for evil things, selfish things.
That's right.
Herein is my Father esteemed, that you bear much fruit. So shall you be my disciples. As the Father hath loved me, so have I loved you. Continue you in my love. Remember, when we start out here, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. We love Yahweh with our heart, soul, and strength. Continue in my love. If you keep my commandments, you shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things have I spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be full. When his joy is remaining in us, that's because we have his kingdom in us. And when the kingdom is in you, there will be tangible results. You will bear good fruit. You won't just bear fruit, but you'll bear good fruit.
Yes.
Verse 12, this is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. And then it goes on, it's talking about greater love hath no man than this, than a man lay down his life for his friends. He's going on to talk about how he's going to lay his life down. And then we lay our lives down. We nail our lives to the crucifixion stake. Go to Romans chapter 12. That's on page 1140 in the Word of Yahweh. I beseech you therefore, brethren, we're starting in verse 1. It says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Elohim, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice. So we take up our crucifixion stake and follow him as living sacrifices. Holy, Kodesh. Remember what we read in Ephesians? You know, we have that pure heart, that clean heart. And we're to be holy, Kodesh, and without blame before him in love. So present your bodies as living sacrifices, holy, acceptable unto Elohim, which is your reasonable service. It's acceptable unto Elohim. And be not conformed to this world. That word conform there means to be molded after or shaped after. Think about putting candy in a mold or putting plaster in a mold. It follows that form, it follows that mold. It becomes the same shape. When you love the world and the things that are in the world, then you can become conformed to the world. You can become molded or shaped after the world. Right? But in contrast, we're to do the will of Yahweh. Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. We take charge of our thoughts, our thinking. We learn to control our minds and not let the world control our minds. Not let the world control our dopamine levels. Right? We learn to guard our hearts, guard our thoughts, not to be fantasizing on all these worldly things and evil things in the world even. That you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Elohim. But he that does the will of Elohim shall abide forever. 1 John 1:17 there says. So it's loving Yahweh versus loving the world. Verse 3, for I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, clear-headed, according to as Elohim hath dealt every man the measure of faith. This is what we should say to ourselves. We don't think more highly of ourselves than we should. It's not all about us. You know, each one should say it's not about me. It's about him. It's about his kingdom. It's about him. It's about Yeshua being our master, sovereign over us. Us following him and obeying his commands. That's what it's about. And so we see that contrast between loving the world and the things of the world, and how we can become so easily contaminated. But we're to have a pure heart, a clean heart, following Yeshua, not loving the things that are in the world, but rather doing the will of Yahweh in our lives. And that's what I wanted to share with you today.
Thank you.
Hallelujah.
Good word.
He died for us, now we have to die for him.
Hallelujah.